Hey, today I want to talk with you about leading a great discussion group because I believe that every leader is capable of leading a great discussion group. And today I want to give you 7 tips to help you do that. Now, before I start, I want you to know that I really believe that discussion groups are incredibly important in youth ministry for a few reasons. First off, discussion groups are really where growth can really happen because in discussion groups, that's where big questions are answered and grappled with. Discussion groups are where students open up and where trust is built and where you really find out what's going on behind the scenes of somebody's life. And I really believe that if a discussion group is going to flourish and go well, it has to be led well. And so that's what I want to share with you today on 7 tips on how you can make your discussion group a great one. Well, first off, number 1 is you have to show up prepared. You have to show up prepared. Discussion groups rise and they fall based on the preparation of the leader. If you walk into a discussion group and you have never looked at the material and you're reading it for the first time in the group, boy, the students are going to know it, you're going to feel it, and you'll have wasted a great opportunity to have had a quality discussion. Now, some of this is certainly on the youth pastor. The youth pastor needs to make sure that you're getting material for discussion groups far enough in advance that you can prepare and look over it. And listen, it doesn't mean that you have to spend months and months poring over it, even just a few days. Even just a day of really reading through what the discussion is supposed to be and just letting it soak in. That's much, much better than showing up and reading it in real time and trying to go through it and not really having it flow. Listen, I've seen it happen way, way too many times. And the truth of the matter is that the discussion groups don't rise to the level of what they could be because of lack of preparation. If you want to lead a great discussion group, if you want to really have a quality investment in students, then you need to make sure that you are prepared. Prepared. Number 2, have a few simple icebreakers to help get discussion going. Listen, no matter how long you've been in a discussion group, we all know that it's almost like in sports. Like sometimes you just need a warm-up time to kind of get into it, or like working out. Most people don't walk into the gym and just start pumping and going crazy. There's a warm-up period of time to get you ready for the real workout. And very similar with discussion groups as well. Very few students are going to walk in and just boom, start going deep and having deep discussion. Usually it takes some warming up, and there's a number of ways that you can do this. I give you a few right here, just a few of those. High-low. High-low is a simple way. High-low is when you say, hey, I want every student to share one high point of their week and one low point of their week. It's so interesting. I found that in some groups that I've led in the past, that was the highlight of the group for students because they got to really share what was going on in their life and what was on their heart. High-low is a good one. Something simple as best song of the week. Hey, I want to hear the best song that you've heard. What are you listening to? Or movie of the week. What's the best new movie that you've seen, and have every student share. It might sound simple. It might sound silly, but it gets students talking. It warms them up. You can find all kinds of different ways to do this online as well. There's so many different resources. So be creative, own it, be creative, and find ways to get discussion warmed up and going. If you walk into a discussion group and you don't allow for that kind of warm-up time, it's going to be a struggle. It's going to be a struggle. So make sure that you have some icebreakers in your pocket that you can pull out and utilize. Number 3, this is a big one. Understand that your role in a discussion group is to be a facilitator and not a teacher. Let me say that again. Your role is to be a facilitator and not a teacher. Now, if you are passionate about teaching, and many people who lead discussion groups tend to be people who like to teach, listen, a discussion group is not where that happens. It just can't be, because the purpose of a discussion group is discussion. It's discussion. It's not you trying to teach and dispel information. It's a chance for students to talk and grapple and ask questions and really process together. Let's look at the box here, the difference between a teacher and a facilitator. A teacher gives information. Teachers give information. Facilitators help students grapple with information. They help students grapple with information. A teacher encourages listening. Teachers encourage listening, but facilitators encourage discussion. They encourage and facilitate discussion. And finally, teachers give answers, but facilitators ask questions. Make sure that you're guarding yourself, especially if you're prone to be a teacher, that you're not monopolizing conversation, that you're not giving all the answers. Your job is to facilitate. One visual I saw one time is if you imagine that you have a red ball in your hand and that you're the facilitator, and whoever has the ball is the one talking, you should have the ball as little as possible. You should be passing it on as often as you can, getting other students to talk. You should have very limited time where you are the one talking or teaching for that matter. So be a facilitator, and your discussion group is going to be great. Number 4, include everyone in conversation. Include everyone in conversation. Now, your role as a facilitator is to do the best job you can to make sure that everybody contributes, but you also have to know the students that you have. And one of the worst things we can do is overpressure students who really maybe don't want to talk so much. There's a way to include students who are quieter and get them talking a little bit without pressuring them to the point where they're just like, I'm done with this. This is too high pressure for me. What I like to do is this, and typically in groups, you're going to find that there's typically 2 to 3. They could talk the entire time. They could talk the entire time. They have no problem with that. Those kids are great. They're going to help you get conversation going. They're going to be there to help that happen. But you want to make sure that everyone is included. And so it's an art more than it is a science. But there are some things you can do, some questions you can ask that can help draw out some of those other students. So I gave you a few here. Sometimes what I'll do is if there's somebody who's maybe been a little quieter, I'll just pause and I'll say, hey, we've been discussing some great things. Hey, John, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this. Or you look at that person who's been sitting there and it looks like they're processing. Hey, you look like you've been processing all of this. What are your thoughts about what we've been talking about? Sometimes I'll even say, hey, listen, I want somebody to talk who hasn't shared yet. These are just little tactics to get everybody involved. Now, you have to understand this. Some students process verbally. In other words, they process by talking. Some students don't process by talking. They internally process. They think, and then they will share. You need to give some room for that. Don't overpressure students to share. Don't be the dictator that says everybody's going to share or else. No. You need to be sensitive to it. You need to, you just need to flow and know when, hey, maybe this person shares one thought and that's about what they're going to share. I'm not going to pressure them anymore. But make sure that you're including everybody. Number 5, don't be afraid of silence. Okay, we all know the awkward silence. We just had one right there. One of the hardest things in discussion groups can be that first question that requires it's a little deeper type of a question. And you ask the question and there's dead silence. It can be really uncomfortable. And sometimes as leaders, what our tendency is we get so uncomfortable that we end up answering the question or we end up speaking too soon. Listen, better to sit in a little bit of awkward silence than to hijack the conversation and give students a pass at talking. I'll tell you this. If you give students a pass to talk, then they will not talk. So oftentimes what I'll do is I'll give a question and I will just sit in that awkward silence. And if it goes too long, I might even say something like, hey, listen, I don't mind sitting in awkward silence, but I really want to hear your thoughts. We'll just sit there. Inevitably, somebody will speak up. And once you get that one person to speak, it's a ripple effect. You're going to have a much easier time. So don't be afraid of silence. Listen, I know that silence can sometimes make us feel like we're doing a bad job or like we're stupid or something. It's not. It's not. Sit in that awkwardness, and once that first person talks, it's going to flow, and you're going to be off and on your way. Number 6, don't get discouraged. Don't get discouraged. Now, here's why I include this in here. I don't know about you, but whenever I lead discussion groups, I always have dreams of how it will end up, and I always have desires for how the discussion will go and how it will flow, and sometimes it just doesn't happen that way. Sometimes with all of the effort that we put in, no matter how prepared we come, sometimes students are just, they're just not into it. No matter how much we try, they're not having it. Some nights you'll have nights where students are just not staying on topic, no matter how hard you try to rein it in. Listen, don't be discouraged if you walk away from a discussion group one time and say, man, I just don't feel like anything happened. Listen, here's the most important thing. The most important thing is this: if you are putting in the effort and you're coming prepared and you're doing the best job that you can, discussion groups are effective and successful over the long haul. It's over the long haul. Relationship and trust, they're built over the long haul. And a night or a day or whenever you're leading your group that didn't feel great to you, that might have been the night that a student suddenly finally became comfortable. And maybe the next time you get together, it's going to be that much better. So don't discourage yourself. If you're not showing up prepared, if you're not taking it seriously, then be discouraged and change it. But if you're coming prepared and you're praying and you're ready to go, then don't be discouraged. God's going to work through you. He's got your back. Finally, last but not least, is when your discussion group is coming to an end, do the very best you can to every time you get together, pray for one another. Have a time of prayer. Have the students pray for one another. You yourself pray over the students. But make sure that prayer is always a central part, and it's always a piece that's never neglected when it comes to your discussion group time. Because as we know and as we believe, prayer really makes a difference. Prayer is communication with our Heavenly Father, and it's a big deal, and it's something that we want to model, and it's something that we want to instill as a non-negotiable in our discussion groups. So I hope those 7 things will be helpful to you. And listen, we're gonna, you're gonna try these things, and some of them are gonna work. You're gonna have to work at a few of them, but listen, the effort is worth it. The effort is worth it to have discussion groups that go in depth and that really serve to grow students. So I wish you the best with this. Enjoy.